They placed the new class of cadets inside the wide training dome, its silver walls shining under the bright lights that gave the illusion of a rising sun. Among them stood Lauren Matthews, one of the very few human recruits who had managed to earn a place in this advanced academy. She carried a plain rifle built from steel and reinforced plastics, not the advanced weapons the others held. Compared to the sleek alien carbines, her weapon looked old, simple, and outdated, like something from a museum. The alien cadets were tall and slender, some with scales, others with blue skin, their features sharp and strange. They stood with perfect posture, confident with their high-technology guns that had auto-stabilizers and sensors. These weapons guided their aim, corrected their shakes, and whispered into their eyes where the bullet should land. To them, shooting was little more than letting the weapon do the work. Lauren set her feet wide apart, shoulder turned slightly, rifle pressed firm against her upper arm. She breathed slow, in and out, like one keeping time for a song only she could hear. To the aliens, her stance looked clumsy, old-fashioned, and even foolish. A wide grin passed across one cadet with pale skin and liquid black eyes. He tilted his head and let out a laugh, and the others soon joined. Their voices echoed in the dome, rough and mocking. "Stands like she is fighting the wind," one said through his translator. "Look at her struggle to hold the weapon straight," another added. "The human looks like she is falling over," came a third. Lauren heard them but kept her calm. Their words slid past her as she kept both hands steady on her rifle. She remembered the short walk she had taken with her grandfather through the woods back on Earth. He had been the one to show her how to hold a weapon, how to let her breath decide the rhythm of her shots, how to plant her feet like roots so recoil felt like nothing more than a strong breeze. He had whispered to her once, with a smile in his old eyes, that this way of shooting was not common. It was the way soldiers of long ago had trained, the ones called Rangers. The course lights flashed, signaling the first run. The sound of buzzing machines filled the dome as hovering targets appeared. They glowed red, sliding across the walls and darting in uneven patterns. The aliens lifted their smooth weapons with an elegance that seemed practiced for centuries. Their first shots came fast, bright beams of energy filling the air. Each shot corrected itself mid-flight, pulled toward the target by the weapon's hidden systems. Lauren moved differently. She did not rush. The rifle, heavy and plain, jerked each time she fired. She fired slower, with pauses between as she breathed out. Bullets cracked hard and loud, not smooth pulses of light. Every shot she fired was chosen with care, not sprayed with ease. The laughter continued as she fell behind. Her pace looked slow, her stance stiff, and she clearly did not fire as many rounds as the others. The aliens yelled out their numbers proudly, hitting more targets in half the time. To the outside eye, it looked like Lauren was losing badly, yet her face did not change. She looked focused, steady, unbroken. She fired again, then again, her bullets landing with sharp cracks that cut through the noise. One alien tilted his head as he noticed where her shots landed. They struck not just the glowing centers, but the small hidden weak spots. A target shield cracked after one shot instead of 5. Another target flickered and fell when she placed a single bullet in its energy core. His grin faded slowly as he realized her weapon was simple, but her control was exact. Lauren lowered her rifle for a moment to reload, calm in her every motion, while the aliens shouted and laughed again. To them, this was entertainment. They did not yet know that this girl, standing steady in an old stance that seemed so strange, was about to teach them something no bright weapon could offer. The course continued on, light flickering and targets shifting. The aliens fired in wide bursts, their voices growing louder with each round. But Lauren's quiet rhythm pressed on, her shots fewer, louder, and sharper. Each hit landed with purpose, showing a kind of patience these alien soldiers had never seen before. The second stage of the course began with a sudden change. The lights dimmed inside the dome, and shadows stretched long across the smooth floor. Dull blue sirens glowed along the ceiling, and new machines appeared, rising from the floor with sharp clicks. These machines were no longer slow targets that drifted lazily. They moved fast and darted across the room, blinking in and out of view, hiding behind shields and walls that opened and closed like jaws. The alien cadets raised their rifles quickly, excitement flickering across their strange eyes. This was what they were built for. Their weapons adjusted to the speed of the moving machines, firing rapid volleys of shots that blurred as streaks of light through the shadows. A group of targets fell at once, sparks flying, and the recruits cheered and shouted with pride. Their confidence grew stronger with each shot, as if the dome itself belonged to them. Lauren stayed steady, her rifle pulled tight into her shoulder, her breathing slow and calm. Her eyes followed not the flash of light or the sudden distractions, but the small lines of movement that revealed where the targets would go next. Loud bucked with each round, loud cracks cutting through the hum of alien beams. She placed one bullet into a weak hinge of a shield, and the target dropped faster than expected. Another shot slid straight into the core of a moving drone, collapsing it mid-flight. Around her the aliens were noisy, their laughter mixed with the sound of their weapons, echoing across the dome so loudly that it felt like a storm of voices. A few even pointed toward her, their laughter bright once again. They did not understand why she moved so slowly. Her count of targets destroyed was less than theirs, and they shouted their numbers proudly across the hall. "She misses half the course," one alien called out through the clicking noise of his translator. "Even with both eyes, she is slower than we are with one," another said with a sharp grin across his strange jaw.
Ow.
Lauren did not speak back. She had learned long ago not to waste her focus arguing during the fight. Her grandfather's voice lived steady in her memory, guiding her with simple rules. One breathe in, one breathe out, one round. Do not race against the noise around you. Do not chase every moving shadow. Wait until the moment arrives. Move when it feels right. The machine shifted to a faster pattern. They leaped higher, gliding across the walls and rolling swiftly across the floor. The alien cadets fired even faster, their rifles producing endless bursts. But their stabilizers began to misjudge the chaotic movements, pulling their aim off by inches. Multiple shots missed, scattering against the far wall with nothing to show for it. Their voices grew quiet as they realized that more bullets did not always mean more success. Lauren moved into a crouch position, resting her elbow on her knee for balance. She tracked the highest drone, anticipating where it would dive, and sent one single round straight into its frame. Sparks exploded as it spun and crashed downward. Another drone zipped across the floor, and she calmly shifted her stance, hitting it at the hinge where leg met body. It collapsed with a loud metal clatter. Silence began to creep into the group of recruits. Their laughter grew thinner as more of them realized Lauren was hitting the drones in places that shut them down completely. Where it took them several beams of energy to drop one target, she ended some with only a single strike placed in the right spot. They still held the higher numbers, but now doubt flickered where pride had once been. One alien cadet, taller than the rest, finally spoke in a softer voice. His translator echoed his words clearly into the dome. How can a human do this with no assist? His question hung in the air, sharp in the silence that followed the break in their laughter. Lauren finished reloading, her face calm, her breath slow. She did not turn her head to look at him. She simply prepared for the next wave of machines rising with the hum of the dome's floors. To the others, her actions still looked strange, almost old. But it was becoming clear that her way, however slow, was not weakness at all. It was control. It was choice. It was discipline written into each movement she made. And it unsettled them, because it was something their smooth machines could not copy. The dome shuddered as the third part of the course began. A loud siren blared, and the walls shifted to reveal hidden doors. From those doors came swarm drones, small and vicious, moving faster than anything that had appeared before. They darted in and out of shadows, rolling, leaping, and twisting across the floor and ceiling. The room filled with the sound of buzzing machines, and the light grew dimmer, until only streaks and shapes could be seen through the haze. The alien cadets reacted quickly. They spread out across the training ground, lifting their advanced rifles in a sink of glowing beams. Their hands shook less because the weapons did the adjusting for them. Bright bursts flew across the room, dozens of shots hitting the walls and floors, some striking drones but many scattering wildly.
Out.
The stabilizers tried to track every fast movement, but the swarms moved too unpredictably. Targets escaped untouched, whirling close to the cadets and forcing them back step by step. Lauren stayed where she stood, her breathing calm, her eyes watching the swarm not as many separate pieces, but as one flowing wave of movement. She remembered her grandfather teaching her in the woods when the wind carried leaves in wild spirals. He had said, "Don't try to follow every leaf. Watch for the one path they all share." She lowered herself onto one knee, steadying the stock of her rifle against her shoulder. She waited, just breathing, until one drone zipped close. She fired one round and caught it straight through its center. Sparks erupted as it spun and crashed to the floor. The recoil pulled against her, but she adjusted naturally and found the next. Another controlled breath, and another shot cracked loud in the dome. A second drone fell, then a third, every round slower than the flood of alien beams. But each one exact and final. Round her, the alien cadets grew frantic. Their beams lit the room with furious color, but their voices carried fear now instead of laughter. Some cursed in their tongue, others snarled in frustration as their weapons corrected too late or missed completely. One cadet shouted, "How does she hit them at all without the guides?" His voice barely carried over the noise. Lauren shifted her weight, moving only as much as needed, never wasting more strength than required. Sweat slid across her temple, but her jaw stayed locked as she kept firing in rhythm with her lungs.
Ow.
She did not chase the drones. She waited and struck only when they gave her the smallest opening. It was slower, it was harder, but every success drew more silence from the aliens battling beside her. The fast swarm pressed closer. Two drones slipped past the curtain of alien shots and dived low, aiming straight for the cadets. One of the recruits panicked, stumbling backward as the drones came near. Lauren turned sharply and hit the first with a clean shot across its frame. She pivoted quick and dropped the second before it struck the alien soldier. The recruit gaped and froze where he stood, his black eyes wide as if he had never seen anything like it before. For the first time since the training began, none of the aliens laughed. Oh. Their fire continued, but their silence carried louder weight than the hum of their rifles. They had shouted at her weakness before, but now they were forced to watch a human girl with a plain rifle destroy swarms with fewer shots that mattered more than all their glowing beams together. Lauren ejected her spent magazine, loading another with steady hands even as drones spun around them. Her chest rose and fell slowly, her breathing never rushed, though the room felt like chaos ready to break open. She did not look for approval, nor for their fear. She only remembered the voice of her grandfather again, reminding her that every shot must be steady and chosen. The swarm began to thin. More and more machines lay scattered across the floor, broken and smoking. The alien cadets had destroyed many, but they could not ignore now that Lauren had carried more weight than her small number of bullets showed. Where their beams scratched and chipped, hers ended the fight completely. At last the final siren blared, and the swarm pulled back into the hidden doors. The drone engines died away, leaving only the labored breaths of the recruits. They stood staring at her now, no longer laughing or mocking. They did not yet understand what she had shown them fully, but the doubt in their eyes spoke louder than words. Lauren stood, rifle at her side, her face calm as ever. She looked like someone who had done nothing remarkable, as if her control was nothing strange at all. But for the aliens, the memory of her slow, steady fire would not leave them easily. The dome settled into silence after the swarm faded away. Smoke drifted along the floor from the wreckage of drones, sparks fizzing out one by one. The alien cadets stood breathing hard, their weapons still glowing faintly from the heat of endless rapid fire. Some stared down at their rifles, others at the broken machines that lay in heaps across the training floor. They had fired more shots, covered more of the sky with light, and yet they felt as if they had done less than the quiet human who had never once raised her voice. Lauren stood still, her rifle pointed low, her eyes calm, even though sweat trickled across her face. She had not tried to outshine them. She had not even aimed to impress. She had simply done what she had been taught. The discipline in her movement was as natural to her as walking. She breathed in once more, slow and steady, before sliding her weapon back into its ready position. There was a sound of heavy boots across the dome. A tall figure appeared from the far side. His steps were slow but carried weight, as if every strike of his heel belonged in command of the room. It was Instructor Eric Lawson, a veteran whose name was spoken in both respect and fear. His uniform bore marks of age, the fabric faded, the creases unshakable. His eyes were sharp, and no small sound in the dome escaped them. The aliens quickly straightened at his arrival, their weapons lowered, their shoulders stiff. None wanted to appear weak in the presence of the instructor, but the silence that followed betrayed their doubt, could not ignore what they had seen. The human girl still stood unchanged while they were out of breath. Lawson let his eyes sweep across the recruits. He stopped on Lauren for the briefest of seconds, then looked toward the rows of aliens. His voice came low but firm, a voice that had once commanded soldiers in real battles far beyond this training ground. "I heard laughter when this course began," he said. "Heard voices mocking a stance. I heard pride in the volume of your fire." He paused, the echo of his tone bouncing across the metal walls. "And yet I saw many of you miss. I saw machines outthink your weapons. I saw panic in those who believed speed was strength. A silence heavier than all before fell on the dome. No alien dared meet his eyes. Some lowered their heads, others clenched their jaws, but none spoke." Lawson turned slightly, his gaze finding Lauren again. She stood straight, rifle still pressed against her shoulder, calm as if she were standing back in the woods of her home. The old instructor nodded once, a gesture so small it might have been missed, yet it carried weight enough to chill the room. "You do not know her way, because you were not trained to know it," Lawson said finally. He pointed toward her with 2 fingers, his eyes never leaving the group of recruits. "You think she looks slow because you do not understand discipline. You think she looks strange because you were never made to earn control without machines holding your hand?" His words cut like steel, sharp and direct. He stepped closer, his boots echoing with each strike. His voice grew louder, carrying a force that shook even the most proud of cadets. "Only Rangers train like that. Only those who carry the hardest lessons of human battle learn this method. What you are watching is not weakness. It is strength you do not yet understand." Whispers spread among the aliens, but softer this time, almost fearful. The word did not seem familiar to most of them, yet the weight in Lawson's voice made it sound like more than just a name. One cadet's long-scaled head tilted, his mouth opening halfway, as though he knew the word, but dared not speak its meaning. Another clenched his weapon tighter as if seeking comfort. Lauren lowered her rifle at last, her calm eyes steady, her breathing slow. She said nothing, yet the silence around her said everything. She had done nothing more than show her skill, but the instructor's words had given it shape and meaning. For the first time, the aliens understood that their mocking had made fools of themselves, not her. They now saw her as something more than a clumsy human. They saw her as the bearer of a deeper tradition, a hidden strength passed quietly through generations of her kind. The dome lights brightened again, washing away the shadows of the swarm. Instructor Lawson stood tall, his eyes still burning into the recruits. "Remember this," he said, voice calm but filled with iron. "Your weapons are clever, but clever is not always strong. When the machine fails, when the field breaks into chaos, you will remember her way. And when you do, you will remember the word I have spoken." The cadets lowered their heads again. None spoke. None argued. The dome that had once carried their laughter now carried only the heavy silence of respect that none had. Expected to rise for the young human girl, the lights of the dome dimmed slowly as the training course ended. The buzzing of drones was gone, and all that remained was the faint smell of smoke and the soft hum of broken machines cooling on the floor. The alien cadets stood in silence, weapons lowered, their posture stiff and uneasy. Their earlier laughter and sharp words had vanished into the air like dust. They no longer stared with mockery at Lauren. Instead, they stared with something heavier, a mixture of respect and confusion that they did not know how to voice. Lauren Matthews adjusted her rifle, checking it as calmly as if she had walked through nothing more than a routine drill. Her chest rose and fell slowly, her eyes steady, her stance unbroken. She did not stand taller from pride, nor did she show off her count of fallen drones. To her it was simple. Each shot had been made with purpose, as her grandfather had taught her. There were no wasted bullets and no wasted movements. That was enough. Instructor Lawson watched the group without blinking. His face was strict as always, but something in his eyes had grown brighter. It was not joy, nor was it words of praise meant for empty comfort. It was recognition, the kind a soldier carried for another soldier who had earned it in silence. He cleared his throat, and his voice cut across the heavy air. "You all saw what discipline looks like," Lawson said. He did not raise his tone into anger this time. He let the words sink in like stones thrown into still water. What you call strange is simply skill you have never been forced to learn. What looks slow is control you mistook for weakness. And what you laughed at is the very thing that will save you when everything else fails. The aliens shifted in place, their scales, fur, and strange limbs shifting with unease. A few of them looked toward Lauren again, their eyes searching her, as though they wanted to ask but could not. They had no language for what they felt in that moment. Lauren looked back at none of them. She quietly removed a spent magazine, slid another into place, and set her rifle down with care. Every action she took was purposeful, without rush. It was in that slow grace that the others finally began to see what Lawson had meant. Each step was trained, each breath controlled, each moment claimed, unbent by fear. The instructor's boots echoed as he walked closer.
Ow.
He stopped beside Lauren, resting his hands behind his back.
Always.
His voice lowered. Rangers are taught to stand when others fall, to fire straight when chaos blinds everyone else. What you watched today was not a trick. It was legacy. The room stayed silent. The alien cadets glanced at one another, still too proud to admit their foolishness openly, but too shaken to deny it either. Lauren finally lifted her head, looked across the dome, her eyes gentle yet firm. She was not smiling, but she was not cold. She carried herself like one who needed no words. She had proven all that she needed to prove. The rest was beyond her. A tall cadet with pale skin finally spoke. His voice carried slowly through the translator, quieter than before. We thought she was weak. We thought her stance was broken. It was we who were blind. His words drew murmurs from the others, and though none answered directly, no one laughed now. Lawson nodded. You will remember this day, not because of the machines you destroyed, but because of the human who taught you what fire and discipline can do when the lights flicker and the ground shakes. Remember, when your weapons fail, when the field is chaos, when fear climbs into your chest, you will think of this moment. He paused. And then you will pray that you remembered how she stood. Lauren stepped forward, walking past the rows of recruits. They moved aside as she passed, giving space without speaking. Their eyes followed her, no longer mocking, no longer full of arrogance. Now they carried a weight of respect that none had expected to feel for the lone human girl. She left the dome quietly, rifle over her shoulder, her boots marking a steady rhythm on the floor. She did not need applause. She did not need praise. Her silence was stronger than noise. Behind her, the instructor spoke one final time, his words sharp and final. This is why humans will always have a place in the fight. Their weapons may be simple, but their hearts never are. And as the lights came fully back, the alien cadets stood still. The memory of Lauren Matthews burned into their minds. They had mocked her stance. They had laughed at her slowness. But they would never forget the lesson that only Rangers trained like that